At my cousin Emily's engagement dinner, she lifted her glass, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "I just hope I never end up like her." Single with a kid. The room burst into laughter, not the light kind. It was full-throated, unapologetic, like she'd cracked the best joke of the night. Uncle Martin slapped the table, cackling, and chimed in, "Men don't want used goods. That's just the truth." Even my own mother let out a quiet chuckle as she reached for her wine. I sat there, frozen, face flushed and heart pounding, trying to act like it didn't sting. But then something unexpected happened. No one expected it. James, Emily's fiancé, stood up. He didn't smile, didn't speak at first. He just walked across the room toward me. The laughter died. Forks stopped moving. Chairs went still. All eyes turned. "I think they should hear something," he said, finally. And just like that, the room fell silent. A month earlier, I'd gotten the invitation. Cream-colored cardstock, embossed gold lettering, the kind of thing designed to scream perfection. Join us to celebrate the engagement of Emily Carter and James Reed. I stared at it for a long time, then placed it on top of a pile of unpaid bills. Emily and I hadn't spoken in over half a year. Not since the baby shower, where she joked that I collected diapers and bad decisions. I'd laughed to keep the peace, but the comment stuck like a stone in my stomach. I wasn't sure I could handle an evening filled with judgmental stares, surrounded by people who still saw me as some teenage cautionary tale. Even though I was 32, working 2 jobs, raising my son alone, and barely keeping our tiny apartment running thanks to late-night freelance gigs and sheer willpower. I almost didn't go, but my mother called me 3 times the day before. "Just go, Claire. Eat a little. Show your face. It's one night." She didn't say it, but I knew what she meant. Don't cause a scene. Don't be the reason anyone gets uncomfortable. Just blend in. So I found the nicest dress I owned. 2 years old, barely zipped. I borrowed heels from my neighbor. Let my son Ethan pick the necklace. He chose a small silver heart and said it looked like his. When we arrived, I could already sense it. Tension hiding beneath flowers and fake smiles. The restaurant was upscale. A private room, soft lighting, quiet music, rows of expensive wine like trophies. Everyone wore elegance like armor. Emily drifted across the room in a silk dress and too much perfume. She kissed me on the cheek like I was a distant relative. "I'm so glad you came," she said, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Did you bring a +1? Or just Ethan?" "Just Ethan," I said. "Oh." She turned to greet someone else. Ethan was ushered to the kids' table with chicken tenders and crayons. I was seated at the far end of the long white-draped table, between my mom and Aunt Marla, who spent the first 10 minutes showing me pictures of her dog's Halloween costumes. I scanned the room. Uncle Martin, Emily's dad, was already a few drinks in. My mom looked like she was trying to disappear. Across the room, James stood by the bar, talking with his brother. I noticed how often he checked his phone. His smile looked tight, forced. It was obvious who the night was for. Emily shined under the attention, working the crowd with ease. She always knew how to make people laugh. When appetizers arrived, my mother leaned over and whispered, "Just keep your head down. You look nice." Nice. Not strong. Not beautiful. Just nice. Like that was the best she could manage. I nodded. I tried to eat. Tried to breathe through the tension, the silences, and the eyes that still seemed to see me as some smudge on the family record. I smiled on cue, laughed when expected, passed the butter, but inside, I was holding my breath. The main course was cleared, glasses refilled, and Emily stood up with her champagne. She tapped her fork against the glass, smiling like a performer, waiting for the curtain to rise. The room quieted, eyes turned, and she soaked in the attention. James sat beside her, silent, hands folded. His eyes flicked toward me just for a second before returning to the table. He looked tired. Emily lifted her glass, her voice smooth and polished. "Thank you all for coming. I can't believe I get to marry someone like James. He's smart, patient, and best of all, he puts up with me." Laughter followed, warm and easy. Then she added, "Really, though, I just hope our marriage lasts. I'd hate to end up like some people." Her head tilted slightly in my direction. She paused. "I mean, single at 30 with a kid." She laughed. The room erupted. My aunt wiped her eyes. Martin slapped the table, laughing before tossing out, "Men don't want used goods. That's just how it is. You can't trade in a dented car and expect full price." My stomach dropped. I looked to my mother. She gave a weak smile and reached for her wine. I stared down at my plate, hands gripping my napkin so tightly it wrinkled into a knot. Eyes darted to me. Brief glances, just enough to register the joke had landed. I was the joke. Ethan, a few feet away, was happily drawing spaceships, unaware that they were mocking his mother, like a clearance bin reject. Aunt Marla leaned in and whispered, "Oh, honey, she didn't mean it. Emily just likes attention." But it wasn't harmless. It was cruelty, dressed in glitter and bubbles. I sat straighter, refusing to flinch. My cheeks burned. My heart thudded in my ears. I glanced again at James. His jaw was tight. He wasn't laughing. Emily kept going like nothing happened. She joked about making James give up his gaming console and how he wouldn't last a week without her. The laughter was thinner now. Some faces looked uneasy. My mom fiddled with her bracelet, but no one spoke. That was the worst part, the silence. They laughed because it was easier. Easier to laugh at the woman who did everything wrong, the one who had a baby without a husband, who showed up alone, who didn't pretend hard enough. I thought about standing up, about grabbing Ethan and leaving. I had words ready, something biting like, "At least I raised a person while you were still posting bikini selfies for attention." But I swallowed it. I stayed seated, chest tight. I reminded myself it was just one night. I would go home, tuck Ethan in, and forget these people. Then James stood up, quietly, without a word. He pushed his chair back and walked around the table. Everyone froze. Emily blinked. Martin reached for his drink. My mother stared down. James walked all the way to where I sat. The air collapsed into silence. He looked at me, then turned toward the room. "I think they should know something," he said. No one moved. No laughter. No recovery. It was like a stone dropped in still water. Everything stopped. Emily looked confused, like this was some planned toast she hadn't authorized. Martin lowered his glass. My mother finally turned and looked at me. Really looked. James stood right beside me, not across the table, not halfway. Right there. Close enough I could see the tension in his jaw. I braced for more shame, but his eyes weren't pitying. They were steady. He turned toward the table. "I don't think I can sit here and let this go." His voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the quiet like a blade. "Emily," he said, meeting her eyes. "That wasn't a joke. That was mean." She opened her mouth, but he raised his hand. "I need to say this." He looked around. "You all laugh at Claire like her life is some warning, like she failed, but you don't know. You don't see what I saw. Claire is the strongest person in this room." My heart pounded. I didn't understand. I felt every eye on me, but James kept his focus. 2 years ago, when I hit a low point, Not just emotionally, but in every way. Claire helped me. Not with empty words, with her time, her care, her effort. When no one else noticed I was falling apart, she did. She helped with my resume. She put me in touch with people. She even watched my niece so I could make interviews. People shifted in their seats. Emily's smile vanished. My mother's hands were clenched. I'd lost my job in tech. I was depressed, drinking too much. Emily told me to get over it. Martin said I needed to toughen up, but Claire checked in. She helped me get back on my feet, and she never asked for anything, never made it about herself. She just showed up. He turned to me again. You didn't owe me anything, but you showed up. When I needed someone, you were there. My throat tightened. This wasn't humiliation. This was something else. Gratitude. Recognition. James turned back to the room. So when you laugh at her, when you call her broken or used or whatever disgusting thing Martin just said, you're not mocking a stranger. You're mocking the woman who saved me, the kind of person this family should be proud of. Emily stood up. What are you doing? I'm telling the truth, James said. I've smiled through fake compliments all night, but I won't stay quiet while you tear down someone good to boost yourself. Emily's voice was sharp. Are you trying to humiliate me? No, he said. You did that yourself. No one said a word. Plates were untouched, wine glasses frozen in midair. Martin's face turned red. My mother looked like she wanted to vanish. James looked at me again. You didn't deserve that. Any of it. I wanted to respond. Say thank you. Say I was okay. But I couldn't speak. I just nodded. That was all I had. In a room full of people who claimed to care, James was the first to actually stand up for me. Not later, not privately. Right then, when it counted. The air shifted. The energy of the room had changed. Tension replaced comfort. Everyone sat stiffly, unsure what to do, now that the silence had been broken by something real. I could hear the faint hum of the overhead lights. Somewhere behind me, a tray dropped. No one dared laugh. Emily remained standing, her jaw tight, stunned. Her face wasn't red with embarrassment. It was burning with anger. She looked around the table, searching for someone to rescue her, to bring the spotlight back where she liked it. But no one spoke. Martin finally cleared his throat and muttered, He's just emotional. Don't take it seriously. James didn't flinch. He kept his eyes on the table. You want to talk about emotion? Fine. Let's talk about what it takes to raise a kid on your own. To work 2 jobs. To show up when it's hard. That's not emotional. That's strength. Emily crossed her arms. Are you trying to say you have feelings for her? James stared at her like she was a stranger. I'm saying I respect her. I admire her. And maybe if you spent less time performing perfection and more time listening, you'd understand why that matters. His words hit like a stone. And not just for Emily, but for everyone. This wasn't about me anymore. It was about truth. About calling out the quiet cruelty they dressed up as tradition, as humor, as normal. My mother opened her mouth, then shut it. She turned and looked at me, and something shifted in her face. Not shame, not guilt. Something deeper, recognition. Maybe she finally saw what her silence had cost me. For years, she told me to blend in. Be polite. Don't stir things up. Smile even when I was breaking. Maybe now she realized how that had carved into me. I didn't expect an apology. Not from Emily. Not from Martin. Not even from my mother. But something cracked open in that moment. James turned toward me. He didn't reach for my hand. Didn't say anything dramatic. He just stood there, still, grounded, and said, quietly, You deserve better than this. I met his eyes. I didn't look away. Not this time. I stood up, slowly. My hands were steady now. I looked down that long, white table and saw a room full of people who had boxed me into a single chapter of my life, who let one decision define me like it erased everything else. I saw Emily, furious, speechless. I saw my mother, finally unsure. I saw Martin trying to hide behind another sip of wine, but I felt no fear. I turned toward Ethan. He was still at the kids' table, humming to himself, holding up a napkin covered in crayon doodles of rockets and planets. He looked up and smiled at me, beaming. I smiled back. "I think we're going to head out," I said, to no one in particular. I wasn't asking permission. I walked to Ethan, gathered his crayons, picked up the drawing. It was a rocket flying toward a sun with uneven, bold rays. He handed it to me proudly. "Did you have fun, baby?" I asked. He nodded. "Are we going home?" "Yes," I said. "We are." James stepped back, letting us pass. He gave me a nod. It wasn't a farewell. It was a message. You were seen. You mattered. You weren't wrong to stand tall. As I reached the door, I looked back once. The laughter was gone. Emily sat stiffly, lips tight. Martin scrolled through his phone like nothing had happened. My mother stared at her wine glass, fingers trembling just slightly. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their regret. I had already told the truth simply by existing, by staying. And James had backed that truth for everyone to hear. That was enough. I opened the door. Ethan slipped his hand into mine. We stepped outside. The night air wasn't cold. It was clean. Light. Like a weight I'd carried for years had lifted. Not because someone took it from me, but because I finally stopped pretending it belonged to me at all. Ethan skipped ahead on the sidewalk, humming, waving his drawing like a flag. I watched him and thought about what it had taken to raise a child who was still full of light, still happy, still kind, even when his mother had walked through fire to keep that light alive. I used to see my life through everything I'd lost. The relationship that didn't survive, the family who never truly saw me, the stability I gave up when I chose to have Ethan alone. For years, I let their voices tell me what I was worth. I absorbed their disappointment, wore their judgment like it was mine to fix. But walking out of that room, hand in hand with my son, I felt something settle in me. Not anger, not pride, just clarity. They weren't laughing anymore, because someone had finally told the truth. Not the version they made up, but the one I lived. I didn't need a man to validate me. I didn't need my family's acceptance to make my life meaningful. I needed honesty. I needed someone to say, out loud, that I was more than the worst assumptions they made about me. James didn't save me. He didn't fix anything. What he did was more powerful. He saw me. And by doing that, he forced the rest of the room to see me too. That moment wasn't just about defending me. It was about breaking the script. The kind that tells women they're only valuable if they come with the right image. The kind that calls mothers selfish for being alone. The kind that sees strength as failure if there's no ring involved. My mother texted me later that night. One sentence, "I'm sorry. It didn't change everything, but it was something. A fracture in the wall. Maybe even the start of something better." Emily didn't reach out. I didn't expect her to. I didn't need an apology from her. I no longer measured myself by what she thought of me. What I needed was what I had finally given myself. Permission to walk away from any place that made me small. And I had done just that, completely. When we got home, I tucked Ethan into bed. He was sleepy, but peaceful. He didn't ask about the dinner. He didn't ask why I looked different. He just curled under his blanket and whispered, "Love you, Mom." before drifting off. I stood there for a long moment, watching him breathe. Then I went to the living room, still in my dress, and let the quiet wrap around me. I thought about all the times I'd wished to disappear, all the times I made myself smaller to keep the peace. So I wouldn't embarrass anyone, so I wouldn't be the subject of side conversations. No more of that. I've walked through too much alone to ever again apologize for surviving. I have raised a good, kind, curious child. I've built a life out of effort, grit, and quiet resilience. And even when I felt invisible, even when it felt like no one cared, my heart never stopped beating. So if someone ever tries to laugh at that again, I won't shrink. I won't cry. I won't shout. I'll do exactly what I did that night. I'll stand. I'll meet their eyes. And I'll walk away, holding the one thing that proves I've already won. Not because I'm flawless, but because I didn't give up. If you've ever been the one they whispered about with a smile, the one who got turned into a punchline for simply living your life differently, I want you to hear this. You are not broken. You are not used. You are not too late. You are already enough, exactly as you are. And you deserve to be seen. So many of us spend years folding ourselves into smaller versions just to fit in rooms we were never meant to stay in. We apologize for being too loud, too quiet, too different, too much. But healing starts the moment you stop apologizing for your truth. If this story stirred something in you, if it reminded you of your own strength, your own worth, or that one moment when you stood up instead of shrinking down, I hope you carry it with you. Let it live in your spine. Let it shape the way you show up for yourself tomorrow. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to leave the table. You are allowed to start again. And if no one has told you this today, you're doing better than you think. You're not alone. You're not invisible. You matter more than you know. If this story spoke to your heart, like the video so others can find it too. Drop a comment. I read every single one. Subscribe to the channel for more stories that reach deep, and hit the notification bell so you never miss something that just might change the way you see yourself. And if there's someone in your life who needs to hear this, send it. You never know who's waiting to feel seen. Thank you for being here. Thank you, friends. Until next time.